Grass Ice Abomasnow. Meet the walking Christmas tree that somehow survived climate change. With its unique grass-ice combo, Abomasnow stands alone in the frozen forest, the only Pokemon to rock this chilly plant combination throughout the entire franchise. Now, before you start thinking this makes Abomasnow some kind of invincible winter warrior, let's talk about that elephant in the room, or the Charizard with a flamethrower. This poor evergreen has a devastating 4x weakness to fire moves, making it kindling with legs and a nasty attitude. One misplaced fire blast and you're looking at the world's most expensive bonfire. Nature decided to create the perfect Christmas tree and then remembered that Christmas trees are traditionally burned in fireplaces. But don't count out this abominable snow plant just yet. Abomasnow compensates for its pyromaniac problems with the snow warning ability, which actually summons hail upon entering battle. This turns every battlefield into a winter wonderland and guarantees that Blizzard will never miss, because accuracy is optional when you control the weather itself. With a respectable 92 attack stat, Woodhammer becomes a devastating stab move that'll send opponents flying faster than Santa's sleigh on Christmas Eve. Dragon Fairy, Altaria's Mega Evolution. When Altaria hits the Mega Evolution Spa treatment, it transforms from a fluffy cloud bird into something truly magical, the only Dragon Fairy type in existence. This cotton candy catastrophe perfectly embodies the looks cute and will absolutely destroy you energy that makes fairy types so delightfully deceptive. Regular Altaria was already a beloved Pokemon with its dragon flying typing, but the Mega Evolution took this fluffy friend and cranked the adorability up to 11 while also making it a bit more terrifying. Defensively, Mega Altaria becomes an absolute fortress with resistances to fighting, bug, fire, water, grass, electric, and dark moves. That's 7 types that barely scratch this cotton ball. The fairy typing cleverly removes Dragon's traditional weakness to itself, meaning other dragon types can't just steamroll it with their stab moves. However, it's not all rainbows and fairy dust. Poison and steel attacks will still give Mega Altaria a bad day, with steel moves being particularly problematic since they're super effective against both fairy and, if we're being technical about resistances, don't get resisted by dragon. Competitively, Mega Altaria carved out a unique niche as a bulky dragon that could switch into fairy moves, something that was previously impossible. Its Pixelate ability turns normal type moves into fairy type moves with a power boost, making Return a devastating stab attack. Combined with Dragon Dance for setup and Roost for recovery, Mega Altaria became a legitimate threat that could sweep entire teams if given the opportunity. Ground Psychic, Baltoy and Claydol. These spinning space totems are giving us serious ancient astronaut vibes with their ground psychic typing, and honestly, they look like they should be explaining the mysteries of the universe on a late-night History Channel documentary. Based on the mysterious Shikoki Dogu clay figurines from Japan's Jomon period, those enigmatic spaceman statues that have puzzled archaeologists for decades, Baltoy and Claydol perfectly embody the intersection of ancient earthiness and cosmic mystery. In competition, this typing ends up creating an interesting dynamic. Ground attacks handle electric, fire, poison, rock, and steel types effectively, while psychic moves demolish fighting and poison types. The combination gives these Pokemon a surprisingly broad offensive coverage, allowing them to threaten a wide variety of opponents. Defensively, they resist poison and rock moves while being immune to electric attacks entirely, though they need to watch out for water, grass, ice, bug, ghost, and dark moves. The ground psychic combination is fascinatingly contradictory on multiple levels. You've got the down-to-earth, practical nature of ground-type Pokemon mixing with the ethereal, mind-bending properties of psychic types. Most Pokemon can't handle being a philosopher who's also a construction worker, or a mystic who moonlights as a geologist, which explains why this typing combination is so incredibly rare. Normal Water, Bibarel. Poor Bibarel. It's one friend who's surprisingly useful despite everyone constantly making jokes about them. This bucktooth builder evolved from the universally memed Bidoof and somehow became the only normal water type in existence, a distinction that feels both accidental and oddly fitting for a Pokemon that spent its entire existence being underestimated. The normal water typing creates a fascinating paradox. How do you combine the most ordinary type with one of the most common and versatile types to create something unique? Bibarel manages this by being aggressively, determinedly average in the most endearing way possible, and is somehow making it work through sheer force of will and an impressive ability to learn practically every HM move ever created. From a competitive standpoint, Bibarel's typing grants some genuinely useful perks. The normal typing provides immunity to ghost moves, which can be surprisingly valuable in certain situations. Meanwhile, the water typing adds resistances to steel, fire, water, and ice attacks. Sure, it gets absolutely demolished by fighting grass and electric moves, but at least it can take a scald or two without completely falling apart. What makes Bibarel truly special isn't its stats or its move pool. It's the fact that this Pokemon single-handedly revolutionized the concept of HM slaves in the Pokemon games. Need someone to surf across the ocean? Bibarel's got you covered. Need to cut down a tree? Bibarel can handle it. Rock Smash? Strength? Waterfall? This eager beaver can learn them all, making it the ultimate utility Pokemon for trainers who just want to explore the world without maintaining a team of 6 HM-dependent Pokemon. The design philosophy behind Bibarel represents Pokemon at its most pragmatic. Not every Pokemon needs to be a legendary dragon or a mystical psychic powerhouse. Sometimes you just need a reliable, hardworking creature that can help you navigate the world. Bibarel's unique typing also reflects its ecological niche perfectly. Beavers are creatures that live both on land and in water, building dams and reshaping entire ecosystems through their insidious nature. The normal water combination captures this duality perfectly. They're normal enough to function in terrestrial environments, but aquatic enough to thrive in rivers and lakes. Dark Steel, Pawniard, Bisharp, and Kingambit. This sinister samurai family represents the only Dark Steel combination in the entire Pokemon franchise, and they absolutely nail both the aesthetic and the competitive potential of this typing. From the knife-handed Pawniard to the blade-bodied Bisharp to the absolutely magnificent throne-sitting Kingambit, this evolutionary line screams medieval warfare meets modern edginess in every way. Pawniard starts this metallic journey as essentially a living Swiss Army knife with anger management issues. Its design is simple. Take the concept of a chess pawn, give it razor-sharp blades for hands, and let it loose on the battlefield. The Dark Steel typing makes perfect sense here, representing both the cold calculation of steel weapons and the ruthless nature required to wield them effectively. Bisharp represents the culmination of this concept, transforming from a simple pawn into a full chess piece general. Its design incorporates more complex blade arrangements and armor plating, suggesting a character that has mastered both offense and defense through years of metallic evolution. The name itself combines Bishop, the chess piece, and Sharp, perfectly encapsulating its role as a strategic fighter with devastating cutting attacks. Then comes Kingambit, the newest addition to this family and possibly one of the coolest Pokemon designs in recent memory. This regal ruler sits on a throne embodying the king of the hill mentality taken to its logical extreme. The design suggests a Pokemon that has not only mastered combat, but has learned to rule through a combination of strength, strategy, and sheer intimidation factor. The Dark Steel typing creates a defensively impressive combination with resistances to normal, flying, rock, bug, steel, ghost, dark, dragon, and psychic moves, plus complete immunity to poison attacks. That's 10 types that barely scratch these metallic warriors. However, they do have significant weaknesses to fighting and ground moves, both of which deal 4 times damage and can turn these proud warriors into scrap metal. Competitively, this evolutionary line has always been respected for their combination of solid stats, useful abilities, and excellent move pool. Bisharp in particular became famous for its Defiant ability, which raises its attack stat when opponents try to lower its stats. Perfect for a Pokemon with pride that refuses to back down from any challenge. Fighting Ice, Crabominable. What happens when a tropical crab decides to climb a snowy mountain? You get Crabominable, the only fighting ice type and possibly the most contradictory Pokemon ever created by the design team. This Yeti crab shows that determination can overcome biological impossibility, though its typing is, well, let's just say it's more inspiring thematically than it is practically. Crabominable's origin story is genuinely heartwarming in its absolute absurdity. Crabrawler, a perfectly normal fighting type crab that lives in tropical environments, somehow decides that the logical next step in its evolution is to climb to the top of a frozen mountain. This journey transforms it from a beach-dwelling boxer into an abominable snowman crab hybrid that looks like it belongs in a fever dream about Arctic seafood. From a type effectiveness standpoint, fighting ice is unfortunately one of the more problematic combinations in Pokémon. This poor crustacean is weak to 6 different types: flying, psychic, fairy, fighting, fire, and steel. That's a significant portion of the type chart that can cause problems. Meanwhile, it only resists rock, bug, ice, and dark moves. Crabominable is, well, it's a walking type disadvantage chart with anger management issues and hypothermia. But here's where Crabominable gets interesting. Despite its defensive shortcomings, the typing makes perfect thematic sense. Fighting represents its pugilistic nature and determination to overcome obstacles through sheer force of will. Ice, meanwhile, represents its adaptation to harsh, frozen environments and its ability to thrive in conditions that would kill most tropical creatures. Together, they create a Pokémon that embodies the concept of perseverance against impossible odds. The design elements reinforce this contradiction beautifully. Crabominable retains the boxing gloves and fighting stance of its pre-evolution, while adding thick fur, ice crystals, and a generally more imposing presence. Competitively, Crabominable faces significant challenges due to its typing, but it does have some redeeming qualities. Its signature move, Ice Hammer, is a powerful ice-type physical attack that perfectly represents its unique combination of fighting skills and ice powers. With proper support and strategic team building, Crabominable can function as a powerful physical attacker that threatens specific opposing Pokémon. The broader lesson of Crabominable is that sometimes Pokémon design prioritizes thematic coherence over competitive viability, and that's perfectly okay. Not every Pokémon needs to be tournament ready. Sometimes it's enough to create a creature that tells an interesting story and captures players' imaginations. Poison Flying, Crobat, Golbat, and Zubat. The original Cave Menace family, these purple pestilents have been terrorizing spelunkers since Generation 1, and surprisingly, they're the only poison flying types in the entire Pokémon franchise. Think about that for a moment. Across 9 generations of Pokémon, hundreds of species, and countless type combinations, nobody has ever created another poison flying type. This evolutionary line has maintained a monopoly on aerial toxicity for over 25 years. Zubat earned its reputation as one of the most annoying encounter Pokémon in gaming history, constantly interrupting cave exploration with its high encounter rate and ear-piercing cry. But this reputation somewhat overshadows how brilliant the Poison Flying combination actually is from both design and competitive perspectives. The typing works beautifully. Flying removes Poison's crippling ground weakness while adding speed and aerial superiority to the equation. Golbat continued this tradition as a slightly more tolerable but still annoying mid-evolution. What's fascinating is how this Pokémon maintained its essential character while growing larger and more imposing. The design evolution from Zubat to Golbat is more of the same, but angrier and bigger, which sometimes is exactly what an evolution should be. Then, in Generation 2, Crobat came in and everything changed. This 4-winged speed demon transformed one of the most hated Pokémon families into a genuinely beloved and competitively viable option. Crobat's design philosophy is brilliant. Take the annoying cave bat concept and evolve it into something so fast and maneuverable that it becomes genuinely impressive rather than irritating. The Poison Flying combination creates some great strategic opportunities. Poison attacks are excellent for wearing down bulky opponents over time, while flying attacks provide reliable neutral coverage against most targets. The typing also grants useful resistances to fighting, poison, bug, and grass moves, making these Pokémon surprisingly durable against common attack types. From a real-world perspective, the Poison Flying combination makes perfect sense for bats. Real bats often carry diseases and can be vectors for various pathogens, so the poison typing represents this biological reality. Meanwhile, flying obviously represents their aerial nature and echolocation abilities. Crobat specifically became famous for its incredible speed stat and access to useful utility moves like U-turn and taunt. Its ability to function as both an offensive threat and a support Pokemon made it a valuable team member across multiple generations of competitive play. The evolution from most annoying encounter to genuinely useful team member presents to us one of Pokemon's greatest redemption arcs. Bug Fairy, Cutiefly, and Ribombee. This tiny bee-fly hybrid brings the only Bug Fairy combination to the Pokemon world, and honestly, it's almost too adorable to function in a universe filled with dragons, ghosts, and various forms of weaponized wildlife. While most bug Pokemon tend toward the intimidating or at least mildly unsettling side of the spectrum, Cutiefly manages to pull off the fairy aesthetic with such aplomb that you almost forget it's technically an insect. The bug-fairy combination is genuinely rare for good reason. These two types don't naturally complement each other in most people's minds. Bugs are often associated with dirt, decay, and general creepiness, while fairy types represent purity, magic, and ethereal beauty. Cutiefly and its evolution Ribombee bridge this gap by focusing on the more positive aspects of insect life: pollination, honey production, and the delicate beauty of creatures like butterflies and bees. Unfortunately, the bug typing doesn't do many favors for fairy's otherwise solid defensive profile. While fairy types normally only worry about poison and steel attacks, the bug typing adds flying, rock, and fire weaknesses to the mix, and this makes Cutiefly and Ribombee more fragile than most fairy types, requiring careful positioning and strategic thinking to use effectively. The combination does, however, also create some interesting offensive opportunities. Bug attacks are super effective against grass, psychic, and dark types, while fairy attacks demolish dragon, fighting, and dark types. This gives the Cutiefly line surprisingly good coverage against several common Pokemon types, allowing them to threaten opponents that might otherwise wall pure fairy types. Ribombee in particular developed a reputation as a dangerous setup sweeper despite its diminutive size and cute appearance. Its signature move, Pollen Puff, can either heal allies or damage opponents depending on the target, perfectly representing the dual nature of its bug fairy typing. Combined with Quiver Dance for stat boosts and its naturally high speed stat, Ribombee is a living example that sometimes the cutest things are also the most dangerous. The result overall is Pokemon that feel both familiar because everyone knows what bees and flies are, and fantastical, but not like this. Ice Fire, Darmanitan, Galarian Zen Mode. Behold the walking contradiction. Galarian Darmanitan Zen Mode form is the only Ice-Fire type in existence, creating a Pokemon that's fighting against itself on a molecular level. This makes for a surprisingly balanced typing that's neutral to most attacks with exactly 4 resistances and 4 weaknesses. It's like having an internal thermostat that can't quite decide whether it wants to freeze you solid or melt your face off. The concept of Ice-Fire typing is inherently paradoxical and philosophically fascinating. These are opposite forces of nature, one representing the absence of heat and molecular stillness, the other representing thermal energy and molecular excitement. For a Pokemon to embody both simultaneously suggests a creature that has transcended normal physical limitations and achieved some kind of elemental harmony. Galarian Darmanitan's standard form is pure Ice type, representing its adaptation to the harsh frozen environments of the Galar region. But when it enters Zen mode, triggered by taking significant damage, it transforms into the universe's only Ice-Fire type. This transformation represents a fundamental shift in the Pokemon's nature, as if extreme stress causes it to access some deeper, more primal form of power. The Zen mode transformation is particularly interesting from a design perspective. While most form changes in Pokemon are voluntary or triggered by external factors, Zen mode activates automatically when the Pokemon is in distress. This suggests that the Ice-Fire combination represents not just a different type combination, but a completely different state of consciousness or being. Ice-Fire Darmanitan becomes a fascinating Pokemon to play against because its typing is so unusual that many players struggle to remember its resistances and weaknesses. It resists bug, steel, fire, and ice attacks, while being weak to ground, rock, water, and fighting moves. The balanced nature of this typing means that Darmanitan rarely has overwhelming advantages or disadvantages. Most matchups come down to stats, move pool, and player skill rather than type effectiveness. Water Steel, Empoleon. The Emperor Penguin that rules with an iron flipper. Empoleon stands proud as the only Water Steel type in Pokemon history, and what a combination it actually is. This typing is defensively magnificent with 8 resistances, 2 double resistances in Steel and Ice, and complete immunity to poison attacks. Generation 4 really knocked it out of the park with unique starter typings, and Empoleon's regal bearing perfectly matches its fortress-like defensive capabilities. The Water-Steel combination represents one of the most defensively oriented typings in the entire Pokemon universe. Water types are traditionally known for their balanced stats and reliable performance, while Steel types are famous for their incredible defensive capabilities. Combining these creates a Pokemon that can absorb punishment that would destroy most other creatures while maintaining the offensive capabilities needed to fight back effectively. Empoleon's design philosophy perfectly fits the Emperor concept. Real Emperor Penguins are among the most resilient creatures on Earth, surviving in some of the harshest environments imaginable through a combination of physical adaptations and social cooperation. The Steel typing manifests in Empoleon's design through its metallic beak, crown-like head crest, and the sharp blade-like projections on its flippers. These elements suggest a Pokemon that has literally weaponized its body parts. The trident-like design of its head crest particularly reinforces its royal status. This is a Pokemon that was born to rule. Competitively, Empoleon carved out a unique niche as a starter Pokemon that could function defensively rather than just offensively. Its typing allows it to switch into a wide variety of attacks without taking significant damage, while its move pool provides options for both offense and support. Hydro Pump and Flash Cannon provide powerful stab attacks, while moves like Stealth Rock and Defall give it utility options. The Water-Steel combination also creates interesting strategic possibilities in terms of team building. Empoleon can cover weaknesses that other Pokemon might have while providing a solid defensive core that's difficult for opponents to break through. Its immunity to poison attacks is particularly valuable in competitive environments where toxic and other status moves are common. Just don't hit it with fighting, ground, or electric moves. Even Emperors have their weaknesses, and these 3 types will remind Empoleon that Monarchy has its limitations. Ice Ghost, Froslass. The Ice Maiden that'll haunt your dreams and your team. Froslass brings the only Ice Ghost combination to the Pokemon world, creating a typing that's both hauntingly beautiful and strategically complex. This ethereal creature represents one of Pokemon's most successful attempts at combining seemingly incompatible types into something that works both thematically and competitively. Froslass emerged from one of Pokemon's most interesting evolutionary scenarios. Snorunt, a pure Ice type, can evolve into either Glalie, remaining pure Ice type, or Froslass, gaining Ghost typing, depending on its gender and the use of a Dawnstone. This branching evolution perfectly displays different interpretations of ice and cold. Glalie embodies raw, aggressive coldness, while Froslass represents the more mystical, ethereal aspects of winter. The Ice-Ghost combination creates fascinating thematic resonances. Ice represents preservation, stillness, and the cessation of life processes, while Ghost represents the afterlife, spiritual energy, and things that exist beyond normal physical limitations. Together, they suggest a creature that exists in the liminal space between life and death, between the physical and spiritual worlds. From a defensive standpoint, Ghost typing grants Froslass immunity to normal and fighting moves, which is particularly valuable since fighting is one of Ice type's traditional weaknesses. However, this defensive benefit comes at a significant cost. The Ghost typing adds vulnerabilities to Rock, Ghost, Steel, Fire, and Dark attacks. It's a classic case of solving one problem while creating 5 others, though at least Froslass looks incredibly fabulous while doing so. The design of Froslass perfectly captures the Ice Maiden concept from folklore and mythology. She appears as a beautiful ethereal figure who lures travelers to their doom in frozen wilderness areas. The Pokemon interpretation maintains this aesthetic while adding distinctively Japanese cultural elements, creating something that feels both familiar and uniquely creative. Froslass found success as a lead Pokemon, capable of setting up entry hazards like spikes while also providing offensive pressure with moves like Ice Beam and Shadow Ball. Its combination of decent speed, useful move pool, and unique typing make it a valuable team member despite its defensive shortcomings.